Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Shouts out to Passport OG for this information that I learned. I was unaware that there was this Olympic divester who shot her shot at a white fella with a disability, for which I'm not blaming him, but I was unaware that this had happened. I want to explain this to you. Her name is Woodhall or Woodhall, one of the two. I don't know her husband's name. He doesn't make nearly what Jonathan Owens makes, and I don't expect him to. Again, they're not playing the same sport or in the same league. But what I wanted to point out to you is that by every metric that sisters say is important, Owens wins. And by those same metrics, Simone Biles has won because she got Owens and became Simone Biles-Owens. I did not know about Woodhall until Passport OG's video. So I looked and found this information. I forgot her husband's name already. That's also not his fault. I have plenty to remember. But I want to point this out about the contrast between them. Sometimes I will take people's differing reactions to similar situations, and I will chalk some of the difference in the reaction, Bismillah, Assalamu alaikum, to the difference in people's awareness. You know, a lot of people did not know about Woodhall, but now they do. A lot of people did not know about her husband, but see, now they do. That's what jumps out at me. That's what sticks out to me. Now they do know. So I'm offended. I'm no longer chalking it up to them not knowing. When the F are they going to say something about how she shot her shot, went and approached him, and drove a longer distance to meet him than Simone Biles-Owens drove to meet Jonathan Owens. Now, there's something else at play here, too, and I want y'all to remember this. And I'm not blaming anybody, but sisters will. See, Simone Biles, I remember during, I think it was the Olympics, actually, when she was in Japan, and right before a competition, she bailed and went back to Texas and then drove some distance to meet Jonathan Owens in person. And Simone Biles-Owens has done what more sisters need to do. You know what that is? She has gone against the dysfunctional N19 culture that plagues our people. She does not entertain her mother just because she's mama. She doesn't do it. She's like, nope, mom wasn't there. She left me with the grandparents. Didn't say nothing to a wedding, nothing to a mother about the wedding. Didn't say nothing. She just went and married. It's funny because, you see, now I understand. I didn't know that she had a living mother with whom she just wasn't in contact. I was unaware of that. But now I get why it is that Simone is so wise. She wasn't raised by no dysfunctional bigger niche. Her grandparents, who are functional and married, apparently raised her. Boy. But you know, let's see the rest of this for what it is too. And I say this without hatred for Woodhall, although I do think that what she did by sisters' own standards was low down, and I'm not overlooking it. I really just want sisters to be honest now at this point. See, a while ago, none of us knew. But now here I am, an ocean and a continent away from Black America, because I'm an ocean and a continent away from America, and I'm seeing this. So this means if I know about it, sisters in the States, North America in general, definitely know about it. And the sisters know about it, and they ain't saying nothing and calling Miss Woodhall all kinds of pick-me B words and making fun of her husband and everything else. Then you know what? It's just, at this point, it's purely hypocrisy, and it is a knowing and willful, conscious hypocrisy. Now I'm going to tell you all, when sisters get to be hypocrites, the question is normally going to be, do they know they're hypocrites, or is it a subconscious thing? And the theory I have is that the older a sister is, the more aware she is of it, because they've had more time to examine themselves, to introspect. That's my theory. Not only that, but it is also because I've heard younger women struggle to explain certain things, even when they're trying to confess to some form of toxicity. Whereas I've heard women that are middle and older in their age just go ahead and say with articulacy and eloquence and a pretty good vocabulary what it is. I mean, Atari pretty much said to Dennis Sperling on a live stream one time, yeah, that's right. Y'all got to pay and they get to hit it for free. It's pretty much what she said. Look, there's a socialization that the Western Black woman has. And then on top of the socialization, a lot of it is, I think, is subconscious when they're young. They don't fully understand what they're being programmed and socialized to do, I think. But there's something else at stake here. Something else at play, I should say, not at stake, but at play here. Do you know what it is, gentlemen? When they become aware of the socialization, they don't fivaguck. And whenever an individual woman becomes aware of how she's been socialized, she still is going to make the mistake of not telling anyone that she's aware. And then she becomes able to articulate it. She is fully aware, and she hides it until when she finally just gets sick and tired of trying to hide it. And then that's when they reach the stage of just giving these confessions on social media. And even then, a lot of times their confessions don't come with apologies. They're just explanations. They're pretty much saying to you, men, this is it. This is how broken I am. This is how toxic I've been trained to be. Don't ask for nothing else. He got to hit it for free and you got to pay. You raise his kids. That's what they're saying. The other thing, too, was that Scott Jackson just showed me another theory that I had. Showed me an example. I stated before, when Darius Jackson was getting hit by Keke Palmer, that these sisters will hit black men in general. They'll do it. We know that. The difference is that if you're a light-skinned black man or an exotic-looking black man, they'll hit you first. Probably hit you harder. They seem to have an easier time doing that with the light brights. Truth be told, as I noticed growing up, you get in a lot of situations in which it is no longer the men that are really extra willing to fight you because you light skinned. It gets to be the women more and more that are willing to test you. They're willing to do and say things to you they wouldn't say to someone of an abundant melanin count. In the same situations, and they'll eventually do the same thing to them. The difference is they might have to work their way up to hitting somebody like that. They'll start off with you. Now Scott Jackson did the same thing. And what happened? He got blamed for it. Now, that's generally across the board, even between white folk. He hits her, it's his fault. Makes sense. She hits him, it's his fault. She hits her, it's his fault. That's where the difference comes in. With us, it's if she hits her, if a woman hits another woman, it's somehow some man's fault somewhere, some black man's fault. That's where we separate from white folk. But there's also something else, and that is that same way that women will hit bookish glasses wearing white men more quickly than they would hit tall bearded white men. Sisters will also hit lighter skinned brothers more quickly than they'll hit a brother with an abundant melanin count, assuming other things are about the same. Sisters will also hit short men more readily. They'll hit skinny men more readily. They'll also hit obese men more readily. But sisters go for, black men with a lower melanin count. And if you couple a looser texture of hair with that, thinner nose, thinner lips, it's going to be even worse. It's a big joke to them. But when they do this, it's somehow blamed on the man. I mean, you don't think about it. You don't hear about Rihanna hitting ASAP Rocky, but she hit Chris Brown. Now, she didn't say she did it for a long time, but she did. She started that fight, but Chris Brown was blamed for it for over a decade and some change. It was his fault. He's the abuser. That's how it works. It's how it shakes out. You're blamed for this no matter what. And this kind of hypocrisy, brothers, I want you to understand, and sisters, you should take note of this too. This kind of hypocrisy is causing hatred. It is going beyond misogyny or misogynoir, as some sisters like to call it, even though that's not really a fitting term because it's not based on the blackness of the women, but it is one day going to be based on the blackness of the women. This is teaching black males to hate black women. The reason I don't hate black women, and I'm talking Western and westernized sisters, the ratchet stereotypes. The reason that I don't hate them is that I've been trained to not really hate. I've heard so many people express not hating someone but still being angry or disappointed in them that I've gotten used to that. That's the reason why. So I'm not one of those that has this particular hatred. One day I probably will. Because the more I learn and the more this goes on, the worse my feeling towards them gets by default. And I'm going to tell you all straight away, I'm going to let you all know right off the bat. When it comes down to it, there are going to be other brothers that are already starting and they are developing an active dislike for black women, even though they come from black women, and it's going to develop into a hatred at some point. The younger the men are, the higher the chances are of them developing a hatred. But I am seeing men in their 30s and sometimes even in their late 40s like me develop either a disdain or a hatred. I've seen some of them re-imprint. They liked and preferred black women before, and they don't anymore. They don't want nothing to do with them. They don't want 4C hair. I mentioned this before. They don't want 4C hair. They don't want dark skin. They don't want a wide nose or big lips on a woman. They don't want it. I myself have already lost any attraction to the West African phenotype. Done. I myself am not interested in that anymore. And that's largely because even though in West Africa, the women are different from each other, that is largely because they're cousins that are in the diaspora, in the Anglosphere of the diaspora, and sometimes the Francosphere too, are just wild and hypocritical. And that it's that hypocrisy and that lying that really get me. Traditional non-Western women are silent enough about what it is that they want. They're quiet enough. I don't really appreciate that, but at least they're not particularly lying. At the very least, they will agree to marry some man that is what they want if he comes along, at the very least. And they're not letting a bunch of other women make the choices for them. But you look at the Western and the Westernized women, especially sisters, and there is, on top of the silence, there is the dishonesty and the deception, outright actively lying to you about what they want. Not only about what they want, but what they can respect and to whom they can submit and under what conditions. And meanwhile, we come to find out this whole time that they're lies. They don't really think that light-skinned men are uglier on average than other brothers. They just pretend like they think so. Oh, that's not all. They don't even really like brothers like that, as we have seen, because if they did, they would have been saying something. You know, when sisters don't, when there's a man that sisters in general don't like, they shame and mock whatever sister does like them. Hell, if there's somebody that sisters do like, but nobody wants to be the first to admit it, they shame and mock whatever sisters seem to like them. We know how that works. And what are they doing? They ain't said a mother cuss word thing against Woodhall. Nothing. Not a mumbling word. After everything we heard them say about Simone Biles. What is the reason for that? Now we know what it is. The reason ain't nothing other than Simone Biles not only got but appreciated a black man, and she went for him. She showed appreciation, made some effort. But when you flip it, and you look at Miss Woodhall's situation, she did the same thing and maybe a little bit more, minus a plane ride, for a Wyatt, who, if he was black, would have been ridiculed by sisters with or without any attention from Miss Woodhall. So you can tell how sisters feel about a man generally based on how, and I said this before, based on how they react to a woman that likes that man or shows appreciation for that man. I mentioned this to you before. Now, if you sit and you look at it right now, it's the same thing. If you take a look right now, you're going to notice the same thing, that they are jumping. I stated years ago that you will know it is seriously some hatred if the women even so much as ridicule those who do rock with you. And this is exactly what we're seeing here. Jonathan Owens, they hate so much that they hate Simone Biles for loving him. Keep that in mind. And it does make it worse for them that he has the complexion and eye color that he has. That irritates them a bit more because that's not the one that's supposed to be confident. They say the guys like that are stuck up, but then they act surprised that this man simply believes in himself and believes that he can be a prize and that men can be a prize. So what do they start doing? Well, then they start taking the confidence that they accuse light-skinned men of lacking. Ask me how I know. And then reinterpret the confidence as arrogance and even being sassy and effeminate and 9AY. You can't win, gentlemen. You never could. And if Jonathan Owens was abundantly melanated on the opposite end of the spectrum, chromatically speaking, they would have found some other things for which to get on this case. They already took Jonathan Majors, whose complexion is smack dab in the middle, at least where I come from, but they still said that he had slave features. So what I'm saying is that they diss black men across the board. They just find different ways to diss different black men. I'm familiar with one particular way that they diss guys of my phenotype because I have the phenotype and I heard this stuff. And the funny thing is, for years, I didn't get to hear it. I wasn't allowed to hear it because then I would have known the one thing that they don't want black men to know about why they treat us the way they treat us. I would have known that it's not my fault. But I eventually did learn. There was some confessions and then eventually an in-depth explanation in 2001. And I was allowed to know. And other brothers will have been able to hear some of the same things because they were short or because they were skinny. But this hatred is coming. A lot of you listening may not have this hatred, but you can tell that eventually there's going to be a crop of young black boys raised that will one day become black men, and they will actually hate these sisters. What you don't realize is that that crop is already growing and they're closer to adulthood than we think. They're older than we think they are. So we're already about to reach a point of no return. We're already going to reach that. And I don't fibberguck what it means. I told my mother when I was visiting the Gulf Coast just less than 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Today, 2 weeks ago, was when I arrived back at my hometown in Saudi Arabia. It was today, 2 weeks ago. And so, just a little bit over that time, I was in my hometown in the Gulf Coast. And during that visit, I had to explain to my own mother, Mom, black people as a race are probably not going to vanish, but black Americans and many black diasporans are going to be absorbed by our neighbors. It's going to happen. Or by other groups. We're going to be absorbed. And I told her what the reason was. And she said, I won't live to see that. And then she was surprised when I told her, if you look at social media, you already will. It's already started. The process has already begun. Then I told her that her grandson had already found someone that ain't black. They're kind of close, but she ain't black. She definitely ain't black Western. And that's the end of it. This is it. Her grandson is not going to be with a black woman. Now, the traditional from the continent right now, at least as far as we know, nor from the diaspora. That's already not going to happen. And it's not something that is his fault. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything to push black women away. It was nothing like that. It's because of the stereotype nigger that he is not. That's all it took. Any other legitimate reason that a woman would have to hesitate with him wouldn't matter, wouldn't make a difference, because the stereotype nigga that he isn't is enough for sisters to say, if I got two options in black men, he would not be one. And that's all it is. So in my own mother's case, who thought that she was not going to live to see what it is that I mentioned, she already is living at the time that the process has begun. And so she was surprised by that bit of news, just as I was kind of surprised to find out that the hatred that I knew was coming in the future was already developing. You already have some black men arriving into their adulthood recently with a hatred, a disdain for the women from whose wombs they come, not just individually, but racially speaking, because they don't get to see anything consistent, but they're in classrooms with women of other cultures and backgrounds who, although they're also growing up in the West and therefore toxic, still don't have the same level of hatred and toxicity for their men that sisters have for us. They're on social media. So they hear this talk from me, they hear it from Passport OG, and they hear it from others. So they know about the hypocrisy. And they are doing exactly what it is that the culture has told us not to do. They're doing what, and that's also what Simone Biles is doing. She's doing exactly what the culture has told them not to do. The culture says you value your mama no matter what she does or does not do for you. And you do not value black men no matter how much they try. And no matter who they are, what they amount to, don't value them. Unless maybe there's stereotypes that were rewarded with celebrity status for being stereotypical. Maybe Nick Cannon, since he already got so many other baby mamas, it's okay to line up to be the next one. Future, it's okay to do that for them. That's fine. But don't do that, generally speaking, across the board, even for black men that have become very good at what they're doing. Don't value them. Now, if you're just going to baby trap him to get a check, go ahead, sis, you liberated, you go, girl, that's fine. But valuing them, wait a minute, you mean to tell me you actually love this man and would shoot your shot at him? Oh, God, no. We hate you. Oh, wait a minute. And you ain't, so you waited, your mama's alive and you ain't in contact with her because she gave you up? Who the hell you think you are? Yeah, gentlemen, you're dealing with some serious hatred here. It is full on hatred. And how that you can tell it's hatred is that they want her to pick up the phone and reach out to and retire her mama who gave her up. That's what they're looking for her to do. But to get rid of Jonathan Owens, who loves her and was overjoyed and cried at the wedding. Give him up because he's sassy and he loves himself too. He's supposed to love her, but not love himself despite his accomplishments. And he better have all those accomplishments too. That's what they're looking for. And I want you to know why it is that they want that. They are looking for exactly that behavior from her because deep down, they know that if they had the challenge of raising a child that they were not ready for, they might also give up. They're already talking about it and encouraging each other to do it instead of encouraging responsible reproduction in the first place. All these methods of birth control available to them, and they're still encouraging going to Planned Parenthood so that you don't stay pregnant for long, or giving the baby up after you have carried the baby to term. They are encouraging all of these things because this is what they want to do, because they don't want to do things like pop in some birth control, put in an IUD, plan. They don't want to do things like that. And it is not because of the side effects on their bodies. Some of these have side effects as low as 1%. Side effect rates as low as 1%. That's not why. It's because they don't want you as a black man, married or not, to enjoy sex, headache, and worry-free afterwards. That's why. It has more to do with their hatred for you than their love for themselves. Because if they could enjoy sex, married or not, headache and worry-free, you think they would accept that kind of arrangement because it would be convenient for them too. No. So what's the reason they would push away something that is so convenient for them as well? It is because of its convenience to you. So you see, the hatred that I'm talking about that's going to come back for them is the hatred they already have for you, and they just keep showing it. Now it can't be hidden as something like culture under some other name or some other idea or concept. It can't be hidden as though it's just culture anymore. It's no longer that because of social media and the confessions that we now have. So I'm grateful for social media because we can see exactly what I said back in 2019. You will know it is hatred if the ones who rock with black men start getting all kinds of heat for that. And what has happened to Simone Biles? She ain't the first one to get heat for that, and she ain't going to be the last. And the ones who disdain black men are going to get all kinds of support. And what happened? And it didn't take prophecy for me to call it. I'm not a prophet. I'm a preacher, but I'm not a prophet. I simply saw the writing that was already on the wall. I saw what was already developing. I saw the attitude. Then I thought back to it the same way that Malcolm X thought back when they told him, no, the white man is a devil, all of them across the board. And he thought back and he believed it for years because he looked back and could not recall an experience with some of them that had not done or said something that was offensive, that had not done or participated in the breaking of his family or his spirit or his ambition in some way, form, or fashion. Now, he was actually adopted by a white family when he was young, but he didn't have time to think about it as he got older until he sat down to write his autobiography. But even then, his gateway into that family was through a friendship with the boy from that family, the son. That was his gateway. You take them away, and what did he have? He believed. And even then, he said that they used some of the racially offensive terminology just casually, like it wasn't even racially offensive. So what I'm getting at here is that he believed it because of his experiences. That's why he believed it. And you've got something going on now in which you're going to have some brothers, because you already got some, that have had neutral interactions with sisters, not very in depth, but when they've gotten to know some sisters in depth and in real life, including the ones to whom they're related, they were failed, if not outright betrayed. You have some who don't have positive experiences on an in depth level. It's not there. And they're going to believe that there is something wrong with black women and that you can tell that as soon as you see that they're black. They're going to believe this. They're going to think that there's something wrong and that it comes with the blackness itself, and that is sufficient enough a clue. They're going to believe this. Hatred is not necessary. This is what you were facing. This is what you were looking at. It's already started. So I want you guys that are listening and don't know about this to prepare yourselves. Prepare yourselves to find out from some of your friends. Prepare yourselves to hear from some of your friends about this kind of hatred. Prepare yourselves I want you to get ready. Some of you are going to start finding out from your younger brothers, your sons, your younger cousins, nephews. Eventually, at some point, some of you are going to start hearing about not only a loss of attraction to sisters, but you're going to start to hear about a disdain, like an active dislike, like I don't like them. You're going to hear some of these guys say, no, I don't like them. I hate them. I can't stand them because they're mean to us. That's what you're going to start hearing at some point. And it's not going to take another decade for you to hear that. I hope that I have adequately prepared you for this. And I hope to be wrong, but I can't see how. So since I can't see how, I hope I've adequately prepared you and removed the shock factor of it when it does come. Thank you for listening. And as always, black heart, black mind, black out, assalamu alaikum, and black heterosexual, non-select male power because they don't like it. Black patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. Thank you for flying again with me here on Jet Black Airways, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.